To Celebrity Radio, it's Alex Belfield talking to some of the country's biggest stars, some of my favourite people, and we've got one for you today. Damage were one of the biggest groups of the 90s, and they're back on tour in 2020, and I'm delighted to say that Andrez with us to tell us all about it. How are you doing?
I'm very well. How are you, sir?
Well, not as good as you. You see, I'm a deeply unattractive man, and in the 90s, I just wanted to be you, really, because you'd got it all, hadn't you? You'd got the looks, you'd got the girls, you'd got the songs, you'd got the hits. It was marvellous.
It was a great era, a great time, and we're very fortunate that, the music we put out and how we conducted ourselves enables us to still perform 20 years later.
Incredible.
So, it's great.
And you're going back on the road with The Boys Are Back, and it couldn't be a better title, really, with A1 and 911 and, of course,
Absolutely.
5. And Damage will be back on stage together. And I guess you're aiming, are you, at 40-year-old women? Because that would have been the sort of age group that were obsessed with you in the mid-90s.
Yeah, listen, I think there'll be some women who are of that age, but generally when we do shows, people still bring their kids out and they introduce their children to our music. So I imagine the demographic will probably be anything from late 20s right up to your 60s, 70s. People like to bring their grandparents out as well. So, there's no discrimination around age. People can just come and enjoy.
Take me back to that time, because it was a unique time in music when people actually cared and people bought records, and it was such a big thing. Is it like a dream now as you look back, or was it a good time or a bad time? Because I know it's chaos. I've interviewed enough guys like you to know that you never stopped, did you? I mean, it was 24/7.
Yeah, it was a great time. From a musical perspective, a lot of people put a lot of time into cultivating songs. Hit songs were not made overnight, just kind of in a bedroom on a Mac and a little bit of tech like people do now. You really had to have really strong songwriters. You would be in the studio for hours upon end. You'd be recording on reels as opposed to in the computer. So you really had to know your craft. We would have live musicians who would come in and play all the instruments. And I think that was really represented in the music that we put out. But it's not to say, I think that the generation right now, they have easier access to their audience. They can literally record something in their bedroom, shoot a video the next day, upload it, and 100,000 people can tell them whether they like it or not. So the days when we were there, it was fantastic for the quality of music, but now I think it's great that the younger generation has instant access to their audience, and we didn't really have that at the time.
I just got back from Vegas on Sunday. I was there for nearly 5 weeks, and I got to see Boys to Men at the Mirage. And to me, you were our British Boys to Men. I mean, it was that beautiful harmonies, and you weren't faking it. You could really sing, you boys, couldn't you?
Yeah, listen, we spent a lot of time doing vocal rehearsals, and prior to Damage, we'd all been involved in performing arts. So I went to the performing arts school called Sylvia Young in London. Jade Russell Knoll went to Barbara Speaks. And Corey was just a phenomenal singer. So when we all got together vocally, we had a foundation, but we've had to work on it over the years to really get the harmonies as close and as tight as possible.
Mm. And what's it like recreating it some 20 years later or more? Let's remember, I mean, we're now in, what are we, 2004? Where are we?
Absolutely.
Time's pressing on.
Time's pressing on. But I mean, the band, we got back together around the ITV show, The Big Reunion.
Yes.
Which was great for us. And we've been doing shows ever since, which has been really good. So, we've changed things slightly. There's 4 of us now. Corey's no longer with us. And Corey was one of the powerhouse lead singers of Damage. So we've had to really kind of modify how we present the music. But, audiences have seen us up and down the country and they still think it's a strong live act. So we're doing something right.
I started my radio career in 1997, and it was around the time of boy bands and girl bands and Westlifes and Blurs and all this sort of thing. And to be honest, many of them were complete arseholes. What were you like as a group? Did you get carried away? Because there was such hype around you guys, and I don't blame you, because the furore when you entered a building was so ludicrous.
Wow. That was your memory. That's amazing. Look, the 5 of us, we came from really decent homes. And I say that in the sense of when we hit with our first album, the 5 of us really tried to keep each other grounded. So we were not angels. We still had some, reckless moments, and we would party and, enjoy ourselves. But we were always very respectful to the people that we met. We always tried to turn up to shows on time. We'd always get up and do the radio interview at 7 a.m., even if you'd been partying till 6:30, you'd make sure you get up and you do what you have to do. So we understood about the important part of what we do is the work, and that's getting on stage and performing. Everything else is just a luxury, really. So we don't have any stories of us throwing TVs out of hotel suites or penthouses. We don't have that. But, you know, we were not angels. We had our fun, but we did it in a sensible way.
I don't blame those who did lose it, because when you're in that sort of bubble of assistance to assistance to assistance and you don't have to lift a finger to get water, it's easy to get carried away. And again, music now is so different. There aren't really the number of stars as they were back in the 90s. It was an extraordinary time where every day another big mega group had come in. It was exciting, and girls would literally stampede the radio stations to meet them. It was incredible.
Yeah, it was a different time. I mean, you had... When we first came on the scene, I think people like Take That and Boyband were really kind of dominating the UK charts. From a US perspective, as you said, you had Boyz II Men, there were Jodeci, there was Shy. But generally, there was a lot of hysteria around bands because you couldn't get onto Instagram and see what bands were doing.
You're quite right.
You couldn't follow them on Facebook, you couldn't follow them on Twitter. So you physically, if you wanted to see Damage, you had to book the same hotel route. And a lot of our fans used to do that. They used to come on tour with us.
Really?
They used to book the same hotels. You know, I don't know how they made this money. Their parents' credit cards must be being maxed. But the only way they could get to see the band was to physically go there. So that created the hysteria and the stampedes. And, yeah, we loved it. It was a great time.
Help me with that thing of being hot and attractive and popular and a pop star. I've never had that. How do you turn down temptation? Because when you know there's 17 girls staying 2 doors away, I mean, it must be hard to say no. Was there a period where it was just pure indulgence and fun and lads being lads in their late teens, early 20s on the road?
Yeah, listen, I think we definitely had fun, but I think it really is about what you're looking for in life. You know, the 5 of us, we're more so about meeting people who had a good heart, who had a good spirit, or people who you had some emotional connection with. You know, we weren't just throwing our bodies all over the United Kingdom and all over Europe. If you met somebody who you really had a connection with, then maybe you'd have a drink and a meal, and the relationship would develop. But, you know, morally, we really tried to... morally, we really tried to be quite smart about what we did and who we connected with.
And your moral compass was interesting. I read an article in preparation for this interview about your religion, and I wonder whether that was another thing that sort of helped you avoid the pitfalls of show business, because it can be overwhelming. Is your belief and faith a big part of that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll speak for myself personally. So I try to make a distinction between religion and faith, because I think whenever we talk about religion, it seems to unsettle people, and people seem to have, you know, find ways to be different. But when we have faith, everybody believes in something, whether you believe in God or a God, or whether you believe just in the universe, or you believe in being good to your neighbours. I think having faith is a far more palatable way of speaking about it. So for sure, throughout my career, it definitely kept me grounded. But listen, again, I was no angel. I had some moments where I did some reckless things, but I was very fortunate that my moral compass and my faith would always bring me back to the centre. A great family, and also having the other 4 boys who would always check each other on behaviour that we thought may be inappropriate.
And help me with the moment where the band are no more. I'm always fascinated by this. After you've had the hype, after you've had the number ones and the tours, and then the group decide to split, or the band is no more, you wake up that next morning. I've been sacked many times during my career, and it's so hard to get out of bed and realise you're not Alex from the radio anymore. You're just Alex. Like you're just Andre, a fella, not the guy from Damage. Is that tough?
Well, for some people it can be very tough, and I won't lie. I had my moments where the transition from being somebody who is recognised wherever you go, and still being that person who's recognised wherever you go, but now not being on television, now not performing, it can be tricky. But for me, I was fortunate. I found something that I was passionate about, which is working with young people and young offenders. I spent nearly a decade working in a youth offending service in London. I went off and studied and became a criminologist and a sociologist. I set up my own organisation and now work across young offender prisons in the UK. And then I became an organisational consultant. So I was very clear about the things I wanted to do moving forward. So the music now is just an additional blessing. But I have a very strong career in another field.
Why do you care so much about other people? It's clear throughout your life and your career that you've been a guy who's always tried to help others. And even if you look at what you do now in inspiring others, I guess at your lowest ebb, when you've got no hope and nothing to fight for, your job right now is to give these people faith and hope, is it?
Yeah, I mean, I work with children under the age of 18 who have committed very serious offences. Some will be in jail for the next 20 years. A lot of the young people I work with will spend more time in jail than they've been alive on the earth. And people always ask me, why do I do it? And generally, at the core of most of the children I work with and young people, they've made irreversible mistakes. Irreversible mistakes. I very rarely meet monsters, you know. There's a myth out there that children who commit crimes are, horns going out of their head. It's very rare that I meet children like that. I meet children who have come through education, they've been excluded, they've been in families that haven't necessarily supported them in the best way, they've grown up in environments which have been detrimental to them. And I think that children like that deserve to have somebody who will provide some hope about what the future can look like.
Have you come to a conclusion why some people turn left and choose a positive path and other people are tempted by whatever negative thing they've done, and there's no sorry, there's no apology that's good enough? You have to pay the price, and that often can cost you your life in jail. Is there any conclusion? Is that parents, grandparents, upbringing, surroundings, or is it just unfortunate, one of those things that some people are destined for that life?
No, it's all of the above. It's everything you've just mentioned. And I think, one of the things definitely that drives my work as well is that I recognise how fortunate we were, the five of us. We found performing arts and music at a very young age. It wasn't easy. Many of the days and nights where our friends were out on the street playing football, or summer holidays where they were enjoying themselves, we were in the studio and we spent a lot of time perfecting our craft. But what music did for us, it took us out of the United Kingdom, it exposed us to the world, and we got to realise that there's more than where you come from. And I really try and relay that to young people I work with in schools as well. There is more to life than just the environment you come from, the local area, your family even. There are bigger and wider opportunities. So there's no one specific kind of sentence I can give you as to why people choose to get involved in offending. It's a multitude of factors, which are environmental, they're societal, but they're also based on the individual.
That's incredible, and what a noble way to live your life, an honourable thing to do for other people. And then here you are back talking about music again. I mean, it's amazing
Absolutely.
How it comes full circle. And I guess the big reunion must have sort of dipped your toe back in the lake of show business and made you realise how much you miss it, because that was an extraordinary TV event that we were all fascinated by. And again, when you put that amount of people and those amount of egos in one room, it's always going to be interesting, isn't it? And it was.
It was. The thing I love about being back in music now and back in the industry per se is that I have an understanding of what is important in life. And I always had that. But because I've been out of it for nearly a decade plus and now I'm back in it, I understand what is important, and I understand about human relationships. And whether you're the director of a television show or the head of a record label, or whether you're the receptionist at a building that I walk into, we're all just human and we're all just playing different roles and doing different jobs. So I really enjoyed doing it this time a lot more, because it's a bit of a release. Music and the creative industry is a bit of a release now. My full-time career is quite draining emotionally, so the music and getting on stage is it's a lot of fun.
I'm sure. And this tour is huge. I mean, they're packing in these dates. You start at the Usher Hall in Edinburgh on February 19th, 2020 via Carlisle. And of course, you're going to Glasgow, Newcastle, Northampton, Birmingham via Bath and Sheffield and Hull and Liverpool and Ipswich and Guildford, Watford, Preston, Manchester, Milton Keynes. I mean, this is no walk in the park. I'm only halfway through the dates.
I mean, no, this is full on. I mean, it started with an email to all of us. And once we got the email, we have to go to the next line of getting approval to go, and my next line is my wife. Right. So I had to go to the wife and I had to say, can I go away for 6 weeks on the road and pretend like I'm 21 again? And thankfully she said, of course, darling, go and do what you have to do. But now we've accepted it, we actually have to get in the gym, we have to ensure that our nutrition is correct, because you cannot do 20 plus dates without being physically in shape. So I think we've signed up to something which some of us were not necessarily aware of the physical toll it will take, but it's going to be fun anyway. It's going to be absolutely fun.
I'm here in Nottingham. You'll be coming to the Royal Concert Hall on the 13th of March in Leicester and Southend. I am going to come and see it. And I tell you why, just to go back and relive that period, because the 90s for me was so exciting. It was a time that was completely unique, and especially for music, it sort of crossed over from the boy bands into that sort of Britpop era, and it was just thrilling, wasn't it? And you were part of that. Talk to me about the lads on the tour, the A1 Boys 5911. Were you all close at the time, or have you just been close since?
You know, again, because of the way Damage were and Damage are, we've always been approachable, and we've always had really positive relationships with all of the bands from our era. I really honestly believe, hand on heart, that most of the bands, if you interviewed them, they wouldn't have a bad word to say about us, just because we always thought it was important to knock on somebody's dressing room door and say, "Hi guys, how you doing?" or, you know, "How's things going?" or celebrate when somebody's gone to number one. So A1, 5, None on One, you know, we've seen them on the circuit for 20 years plus, so we have very good relationships with those guys, and we respect them as family men. You know, many of them bring their kids to shows now, their wives, so we respect everybody equally.
I suppose it will be a very strange tour compared to 20 years ago, because, I mean, there's just families involved now. It's a completely different ball game, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, it will be. I'm sure, you know, when we did the big reunion tour, you would see people sneaking off to have FaceTimes with their kids at bedtime, and, you know, wives would come out on the road, or partners, whatever it was. So absolutely it'll be different, but don't get us wrong. When it's time for us to have fun, I'm sure all the bands will be going out and having a lot of fun. So, yeah, it'll be a nice mixture of work and a nice mixture of play.
Congratulations on everything. You can see the boys are back on tour starting in Edinburgh, 19th of February, running until the 23rd of March 2020. The big London date is the event Apollo on the 14th of March, and via Cambridge and Portsmouth and Reading and Poole and Southampton, Plymouth and Cardiff. Really lovely to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time. I'll see you next year.
Blessings. See you then. Have a great Christmas, great end of 2019, and we'll see you for the big tour next year.
You didn't just wish me Merry Christmas in the middle of May, did you?
Oh, no, you must do that. I mean, literally, that's how we have to plan now. I'm not going to speak to you until next year. Merry Christmas.
Cheers, big man. See you soon.
Bye-bye.
That was lovely. Thank you so